What's up, everybody? It's the Pope Elijah Burke, and I want you to tune in whenever you can to make sure that you're listening to Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast with Adam and Fiona.
Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. It is Monday, guys. I know, right? Monday. And I'm still getting used to doing these Monday morning NWA review shows of Power. Obviously, Power is on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on Comet TV, 9 p.m. UK time. And this week, it was Crockett Cup semi-final action as the Good Brothers. They were facing the Country Gentlemen to get to the finals, and Talos and Adiabi were taking on the Wrestling Machines in the other semi-final. And of course, Sirena Veil looks to take the Burke from Natalia Markova. Did she get there, or was there a huge swerve in that match? We'll get into all of that on this show. But first, of course, it was Crockett Cup semi-final action. The Country Gentlemen were in the semi-finals against the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and of course Doc Gallows. This was the Country Gentlemen, and I know they've disagreed with me on social media, but the Country Gentlemen have been the bracket busters in this tournament, in my opinion. Beat the number two seeds, the Colognes. Then they took on the Good Brothers, who I mean, no, sorry, they were the two seeds. Colognes are three seeds. And the Country Gentlemen were lower down, I think six or seven seeds. The CG was, and they've been bracket busting all tournament, and they come up against a well-renowned tag team. I love Gallows and Anderson, I really do, and I know a few people have disagreed with my analogy last week on Power, which is absolutely fine, about them demolishing the slime balls in the manner in which they did. But look, it's an opinion, right? Everyone's got one. You're just wrong, and I'm right. All jokes aside, I'm only messing about that. This match was good. I enjoyed it. It was, you always get with the Kazanas. It is a hoss fight when you take on the Kazanas. Obviously, Joe Kazana at ringside as well. Good to see Dill's back on commentary as well. It's been a few weeks since Mr. Wings of Mercury joined us, so it was nice to see Dill's back in the box this week. Casey Shuffle, of course, in this, or the strut, whatever you want to call it, was used during this as well. And one of the things I would say about the Kazanas is they always seem to find a way. And of course, Joe Kazana would say that way was by the book. Well, I would say that it wasn't by the book, but the book was used. And that book was used on Gallows, I believe, by AJ Kazana, that set up another bracket buster for the Country Gentlemen, which they won't like me saying, I'm sure. But they pinned Gallows and Anderson, and the Country Gentlemen have made it through to the finals of the Crockett Cup, which will be next week. We'll find out who their opponents are very, very shortly. This may not be in match order, by the way. I'm just doing it in a different way this week because, well, I can. Obviously, you'll see it's just me again this week. Miss Fiona Lochran is on the flight back home, so she will be joining us next week for our NWA review, and I'm looking forward to that. Don't tell her, but I have missed not having my fee around for the NWA stuff. She'll tell us all about the Crossfire Wrestling show that she went to as well. But Country Gentlemen in the finals of the Crockett Cup, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, they made it. So congratulations, as I say that through gritted teeth, to the Country Gentlemen. We'll find out who follows them into the finals a little bit later on this show. But next, of course, the most punchable face in the NWA, Carson Bartholomew Drake, was in action against Wrecking Ball Legursky. I was worried about this match, actually. What NWA do really well, we're going to talk about it in a minute, is they do the clash of styles really well. It doesn't always work out, and I know that I've been quite hard on El Dragon Nihar, but I found that a lot of his matches where it's been a clash of styles hasn't really worked the way it should. This one actually surprised me because it worked in so many ways. Obviously, Carson Drake and Aaron at ringside. Of course, we can't forget Mr. Stevens, the manager of champions and the Federation of Champions, of course, at ringside for this one. And I will say, this impressed me actually. And I feel as if, like, in many ways, this was a big test for Carson Drake to kind of overcome those odds that you would need to overcome if you want that World Heavyweight Championship. Obviously, Frill Billy's the champion. Next week, he does go against Brian Idol, and they have a bit of a face-off in a minute, which we'll get to. Um, but I felt this was Carson Drake's probably biggest test. And it's not, and not disrespect to Legursky, this wasn't necessarily because Legursky's up there in the top contenders, but it was in terms of the weight class. Legursky, 300, nearly 400 pounds, throwing Carson around the ring. You know, in a lot of ways, Carson was at such a disadvantage to this match. You didn't know if he was going to get the victory. But he does have a helping hand in Stevens. And Legursky loves that hip attack into the corner. He uses that quite a lot. And it does a lot of damage. That is without a doubt. He does a lot of damage in this. And I thought that Carson, at one point, there was a facial look on Carson's face at one point during this match. He was in the corner getting ready for another hip attack. And he looked like the lights are on, but nobody had been there in about a week. He looked out of it on his feet. But I did say I had a helping hand, and that helping hand was, of course, Aaron Stevens. Gets a distraction. What I really loved about the way the distraction happened was how Carson transitioned that into his finish. And forgive me, I haven't got his finish written down. It's just a version of the stroke, basically, that Jeff Jarrett used to do. The stock drop or something like that, it's called. Really impressive that he managed to get. He's actually hooked Legursky in for it as well, which was another impressive. And regardless of the fact that he used Aaron to get the victory, I will say that is now kind of solidified for me Carson Drake's stock levels, so that I know now that if Carson Drake goes for that NWA World Heavyweight Championship, he wouldn't be much of an underdog, if that makes sense. Thrill Billy is a different beast, is a different animal, but I would say that Carson is now very much in contendership for that. For the £10 of gold, obviously, as I said, that championship defended next week on Power. We'll get into that. But I'm very intrigued to see where we go with this now. When does Carson decide that it's time to challenge? Because obviously, at some point, he's going to have to issue out that challenge. I mean, Slade is the national heavyweight champion. Slade is a junior heavyweight champion. Mondo's a national heavyweight champion. The Slime Balls are the champions of the United States presidency, or whatever you want to call it. It only leaves him in the Federation of Champions without a champion. Does he go for the TV title? That's another option. He could go that route. Or does he just go straight for that World Championship? And then when do you pick your fight with Thrill Billy, really? And is there a time to pick a fight? Is there ever a right time to want to go one-on-one with the Thrill Ride himself, Silas Mason? I don't know. But I will now say that that match for itself solidifies Carson's place within the world heavyweight division, but also solidifies him as a top contender, and now one that you look at and say, yeah, he could do it. He could do it. I know on the territories, he's been a champion at nearly. He's been the world champion at nearly every promotion on the territories. I know that very well. But obviously, the NWA is a different breed, and it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But congratulations to Carson Drake. We will never see the last of Wrecking Ball Legursky in the NWA. I love Wrecking Ball. I kind of hope that he gets something, because he's been on our screens quite a lot recently, which is unusual in a lot of times for Power. Sometimes you see someone for a week and then you don't see them again for a long time. So I hope we continue to see our good friend Wrecking Ball. He needs to come on the show. That's what he needs to do. Wrecking Ball, if you're watching, we want you on here. Let's have a chat about NWA, my man. Be great to see you. Now, we mentioned next week it is going to be Brian Idol one-on-one with Thrillbilly Silas Mason. I believe this is going to be contested under no limits. They had a little face-off, but again, there was playing into the fact about the Southern Six and Thrillbilly, and really about how maybe AT and Kerry Morton wants that opportunity. Because during this interview, we had Brian Idle there, we had Thrillbilly, and we had the Southern Six. I think it was Carl Davis, or maybe even Thrillbilly, that said, "There's nobody else in the NWA that could step up to me." And it got a look. And if you noticed, there was a visible look on the face of Alex Taylor and Kerry Morton. Now, Kerry Morton, we know, is wanting this opportunity. He's got himself bulked up. He wants to be a real heavyweight. That look that really should ascertain that he wants that opportunity. Which was quite interesting. And he did say about Brian Idle. And, listen, Thrillbilly made a point here. And I will say this is I like Brian Idle, but this is a very valid point. This is like Idle's fourth opportunity at the championship in quite quick succession. He's lost every other one. Granted, caused carnage. In that last one. And I do have to question that. And I feel as if it's even right for Thrillbilly to be questioning that. Is Brian Idle does he really deserve? I know he was a number one contenders match against Carnage, and he did beat Carnage, and that's fine. But you do have to. Markova was under the same boat. If you remember, before Markova won the Burke, she had amples of opportunity to win it, and on her last attempt, she did. So yeah, you do question that. I would question it if I was Thrillbilly as well, but he's in very confident mood next week that he will get the job done on Brian Idle and still be the NWA World Heavyweight Champion at the end of the Crockett Cup. We will see next week, or sorry, not even next week. We will see this coming Saturday, NWA Power live on Comet, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. I think it's like 2 or 1 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. UK time. Make sure you tune in for that. The second Crockett Cup action, the Crockett Cup semi-finalists, the winners of this match would go on to face the Country Gentlemen in the finals of the Crockett Cup this coming Saturday on NWA. And this was, of course, the Titans of Calamity, one-on-one with the Wrestling Machines. Now, we spoke about a contrast of styles, whether it works. This was a prime example of it absolutely working. We had the Titans of Calamity, Adavi and Talos, two big guys. And then you've got the Wrestling Machines, very much a ground and pound, standing, your average type of wrestlers. Mondo, definitely the power of the two. Slade is probably the best pure wrestler in the NWA right now, and maybe ever since I've watched Power. I don't know. I'd have to go back and take a look. He has done nothing but impress me with what he's capable of. And again, someone, I know he's a junior heavyweight champion right now, but someone who I think could very well be going up there and perhaps even at some point would rival Carson for that place in the NWA's World Heavyweight Championship position. But yeah, this was a clash of styles at work. So you had the Wrestling Machines, and they were very much being the machines. They were trying to wear these guys down. They were trying to dictate, get a body part, make it hurt. Slade's finish is obviously the submission. Work that body part, work the leg. They were doing everything in their power to do this. But of course, the Titans of Calamity had that power. And every time the Wrestling Machines were gaining that momentum, bosh, they would be taken out from the Titans of Calamity. And it was a double chokeslam from the Titans of Calamity that got the job done. And they go ahead to face the Country Gentlemen this coming Saturday on NWA on Comet for the Crockett Cup. Will the number 16 seed, the team that has had the most matches in this competition, will they go all the way to Crockett Cup success? It was quite interesting because when me and Fiona was talking about this a couple of weeks ago, we both sat there and said we felt as if the winners of the Titans of Calamity against it was El Dragon Nihar and Latimer, the winners of that match would go on to win the Crockett Cup. That was our belief. That was what we honestly believed at this point. And I felt the same with this week, with the fact it was the Wrestling Machines. But can the Country Gentlemen do bracket buster after bracket buster after bracket buster and find a way of winning the Crockett Cup this week. It will be an interesting sight to see this coming Saturday on Power. I'm not going to miss it. You guys don't miss it either. Now we go to the Burke in the main event of NWA Power. It was Markova. It was Sirena Veil. I love this. This was, again, I admit that I felt as if the women's division has taken a bit of a backseat to the junior heavyweight for me personally. I feel that division has come on very, very strong. But this match was great between these two. Markova has been a fighting champion, and she still is a fighting champion right now. And Sirena Veil is young. She's gifted. She's been working Crossfire, working with the Page sisters. I don't think there's any better people for her to work with in NWA Crossfire. And the best for her is certainly yet to come. These two put on a great, great match. I really, really enjoyed it. But regardless of all of that, what we need to talk about is what happened at the end of this match. Markova gets the win. But Greta comes into play at this point. She picks Markova up for an almighty choke slam. And if you remember, last week, La Princesa picked up the bouquet of the Burke, which allows her, the Burke bouquet, which is effectively the NWA's version of the Money in the Bank briefcase. She cashed in that bouquet, pins Natalia Markova, and becomes World Women's Champion in the NWA, La Princesa Tiffany Nieves. And I have to say, do I agree with the way that she done it? Absolutely not. Does she deserve it? 1,000,000%. I've said this. You go back through the interviews that we've done recently on the NWA, and I've been saying the same thing for a good year or so, that Tiffany Nieves has been the MVP of the NWA now for about 12 to 18 months. She's now finally got her right as the NWA World Women's Champion, and I, for one, tip my hat, if I had one, to La Princesa. The era of La Princesa begins on Power in a shocking circumstances. Like I said, you don't have to like the way she done it, but you do have to appreciate that she 1,000,000% deserves that right to be NWA Women's World Women's Champion. Fantastic for Tiffany Nieves. Congratulations, La Princesa. But you owe Greta a great deal for that. And in fact, I would go as far as saying you owe Greta a shot at the Burke. Because if it weren't for Greta, you're not walking out of NWA Power World Women's Champion. Just my fault. Anyway, that wraps up this week on Power. But we have an NWA marathon of our own this week. We have 3 interviews that we're going to be recording with this week. Samantha Starr being one. Number 2, Scott Wheeler, senior referee of the NWA, Scott Wheeler. And number 3, the Wall Tyler Stevens. Will all be sitting down and recording NWA stuff this week. We are looking very much forward to hosting them. We can't wait for you guys to see it. You can look at NWA stuff already. The NWA Spotlight series is in the playlist. The Talking Territory series is in the playlist where we talk to all the territories for the NWA and some of the wrestlers. And listen, if you are a part of the NWA territories and you want to come on our show and promote those territories, get in touch with us. We're looking for a new season of NWA Talking Territory, so we'd love to have you guys on. I'll be sending some stuff out later on to you guys to get you guys involved. We'd love to hear from you all. Be great to have you back on. You can follow us though, HTT Buckle, everywhere. It's another busy week. We've got interviews dropping. You would have seen Lincoln Spectre on Independent Showcase. We've also got the wrestling's biggest regret, Javi, or at least he wants to be wrestling's biggest regret from the WWE. He's coming on as well. He'll be on later this week, as well as all the other review shows as normal. Follow us, HTT Buckle, everywhere. Don't forget to watch NWA on Comet this coming Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. UK time. If you're unable to do that, the replay of the show will be available within 24 hours on NWA on the on-demand bit on Comet TV. Just go to comettv.com, select NWA, and the latest episode will come down below the day if you cannot watch it live. But for us, we'll be back Well, we'll be back this week with some more, but we'll be back with some more NWA stuff next week. Fiona Lockram returns from her holiday. She's funny enough just text to say she's landed in Heathrow. But until then, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye to you all.